Immigration is changing what Ireland looks like.
An Irish government plan to address population growth isn't an outline for nation destruction that will bring in 1 million immigrants from Muslim countries, as claimed by several false stories circulating online. The plan to address growth doesn't specify countries where immigrants would come from, nor their religions. Several websites tie all projected increases in the Ireland 2040 plan to immigrants, likely Muslims from Afghanistan, Africa, the Middle East, and Pakistan, and claim the Prime Minister, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, is an ethnic Indian. The Prime Minister is the son of a Hindu doctor from India and an Irish nurse. The site said Varadkar was talking about the migration of more than 1 million people when he said, "It's our big vision for how we want to reshape Ireland." The plan describes projected growth of around 1.1 million over 22 years. The leading nationalities of people moving to Ireland in the year before the country's most recent census in 2016 were returning Irish citizens, followed by people from the United Kingdom and those from Brazil. The quote attributed to Varadkar is accurate, but he did not say it in speaking of immigration. Varadkar tweeted that remark Feb. 16 about the plan as a whole, just before the government released it. Dublin Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris condemned violent anti-immigration clashes on Monday at a planned asylum seeker housing facility in Dublin as reprehensible as 15 were arrested. The clashes are the latest at sites earmarked for asylum seekers who have arrived in Ireland in growing numbers in recent years. Videos posted on social media showed machinery and construction materials on fire at the building site, a former paint factory in the north of the capital. Protesters threw bricks and launched fireworks at police, who used pepper spray to disperse the crowd of more than 100 mostly male teenagers. Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris said no person has a right to burn cars, damage property, or attack the police. These actions are criminal and are designed to sow fear and division. We should not accept them being legitimized in any way by describing them as protest, Harris added in a statement. A number of Garda vehicles have been damaged, police said, using the name for the Irish National Force. One video showed a person believed to be a worker at the site, which is planned for repurposing as an accommodation facility for up to 500 asylum seekers, being removed from the scene on a stretcher. Protests at the site entrance have delayed the start of work for several months, the Immigration Ministry said. The violence was sparked by a provider attempting to start work, said the ministry, which is responsible for housing asylum seekers. The ministry condemns all acts of criminality and intimidation of providers and their employees, it said. Ireland's Justice Minister Helen McEntee told the Irish Times newspaper that she was appalled by the scenes and that those involved would face the full rigors of the law. Since 2022, there has been a sharp increase in arson attacks on properties around the country linked to accommodating asylum seekers. During violent riots in Dublin last November that were sparked by unrest over increased immigration and ignited by a knife attack outside a school, rioters also targeted a number of properties used to house asylum seekers. Northern Ireland's police commander confirmed Thursday that 120 police reinforcements are coming from Scotland to help quell racist attacks on Muslims following 4 nights of violence, mostly in Protestant unionist areas. Chief Constable John Boucher confirmed the move at Stormont Castle after meeting the leaders of Northern Ireland's cross-community government. Flanking the top cop, First Minister Michelle O'Ahill of Sinn Féin and Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly of the Democratic Unionists sought to project a common message of support for law and order and condemnation of the rioters. But their show of unity was immediately undermined next door inside the Northern Ireland Assembly, where an emergency debate highlighted a gulf between most parties and the Democratic Unionists. Northern Ireland's main pro-British party sought to amend the Assembly's anti-racism motion by inserting a clause defending the right to protest immigration. Their amendment was rejected in a 28-43 vote, and irritated unionist moderates and Irish nationalists who had wanted to keep the focus on condemning the racist mobs, not making excuses for them. Stormont's latest division reflects the peculiar reality of immigration in a Northern Ireland that remains starkly divided along Catholic and Protestant lines, particularly in Belfast, where decades-old peace line. Barriers of concrete and steel separate neighboring communities into hostile sectarian camps. When immigrant workers and asylum seekers seek housing in Belfast, they struggle to find anything available in faster-growing Catholic areas, where state housing lists are longer in already overcrowded communities. They dwellings more readily on the more thinly populated Protestant divide of the divide, particularly in the most down-at-heel districts dominated by one of 2 loyalist gangs, the Ulster Defence Association and Ulster Volunteer Force. Their ranks include neo-Nazis and others committed to white power causes, counterproductive. Police and politicians say members of both outlawed groups helped stoke the violence that started Saturday night with a March police block before it could reach its planned target, the Belfast Islamic Center. Marchers instead fanned out to torch immigrant businesses and to vandalize and break into immigrants' homes. At least one immigrant remains hospitalized days after a gang stamped repeatedly on his head. The wave of intimidation has left many Asian, Arab, and African residents afraid to leave their homes or go to work, where they play a disproportionately large role in maintaining Northern Ireland's health and care services. Politicians from the Centre Ground Alliance Party, the moderate Ulster Unionists, and the two Irish nationalist parties, Sinn Féin and the SDLP, took turns Thursday denouncing the rioters and insisting that Belfast must become more multicultural and open to foreign influences. But the Democratic Unionist Party lawmakers stressed their view that such violence inevitably, if unfortunately, flows from too much immigration. The rioting, said the DUP's Jonathan Buckley, had been counterproductive to the vital discussions we need to have about our country's immigration policies. To groans from across the chamber, Buckley blamed large-scale, uncontrolled immigration over a long period of time for placing additional strain on public services such as housing, school places, and council services. He added, "It is better for me to say it in this place than for people outside this place to express it in a violent way which is unacceptable." Least diverse nation in the UK. Others slammed the DUP's message on a day when leaders of Northern Ireland's minuscule Muslim community had been invited to sit in the visitors' gallery. They noted that Northern Ireland remains the least diverse corner of the UK, with a population that is more than 96% white. Claire Sugden, a liberal unionist who sits as an independent, addressed a group of Muslim visitors in the gallery above. To those being targeted, "I am so sorry that living here has made you feel scared, intimidated, and unsafe. I'm ashamed," she said. Referring to the criminal rackets of the UDA and UVF, she chided hardline unionists for trying to justify the behavior of militants who in turn encourage youths in unionist areas to threaten immigrants and clash with police. "It is your community they're exploiting and your children they are manipulating." And Alliance's Kate Nichol, who came to Belfast at age 12 as a white refugee from Zimbabwe, grew emotional as she decried unionists willing to defend the legitimate concerns of gangs and rioters. She said it was shameful for them to blame the relatively small immigrant community for wider housing supply problems. "We are here about racist crime, Islamophobia. We will have another conversation about housing. Please do not conflate them. It is negligent to do so."